Well, ladies and gentlemen, the WWE Unreal show has officially dropped today, and I watched the first 3 episodes, well, skimmed through like 90% of the third episode, but watched the first 2, saw episode 4, and saw some of episode 5, and I have already come to the conclusion that this show is awkward and it ruins a lot of the mystique of pro wrestling as we know it. It also officially exposes triple fraud. Does it feel like Mania season now? I'm the gamer. This guy is an absolute fraud. Everything that happened in this documentary, from the behind the scenes stuff with the superstars to the behind the scenes of the matches, the choreography, the segments, the heel turns, the face turns, all of that stuff I thought was absolutely ridiculous. Now, part of it is really cool to see the ins and outs of how everything is ran, and I kind of liked some of those elements where, you know, they're showing you how they switch from different camera feeds, or they're showing you how they come up with the choreography for segments, how they game plan it in the writer's room, and things of that nature. I thought that that's the extent that you should be going with. You should not have situations, for example, where this is one of the most insane things I've seen. All of the cameras backstage are just covering everybody's personal conversations. I thought was very weird, which means that some of the mystique and some of the intrigue and the story behind it is gone. And John Cena, Rhea Ripley off camera, Punk off camera, John Cena on camera in this show literally brought up the fact that that he loves like the show aspect of it. He likes to leave it for the audience. You get what I'm saying? And so going behind the scenes and showing everyone the inner workings is a bit odd, to say the least. And on top of that, we also have to point out what we're seeing here. It, like Rhea and Punk said, I think in some interview recently for WWE Unreal, it's awkward. You get what I'm saying? Like you're getting your personal conversations covered by cameras. Rhea Ripley's going over her match spots before her match with Liv Morgan at Raw on Netflix, and she's going over match spots while there's a camera in her face. She's having convos with Bianca after Elimination Chamber, and then Rhea Ripley's talking to them, and they're all talking together, and you have people going around backstage, and you just have the camera right up in their face. They can't even have a discussion. You get what I'm saying? Like, what kind of stuff is that? Very weird. And also, we have to discuss the fact that literally in this documentary, Rhea Ripley describes her feud with Liv Morgan as Groundhog Day, because it's the same thing happening every single week. You have things like, for example, kayfabe being destroyed sometimes in this episode, because you see people like Cody and KO who fought at Royal Rumble. Cody slammed this dude through a ladder on his neck. KO got busted open, and then you go backstage and they're shaking hands and talking about it. You have Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan talking backstage. The Rock and Cody are having libations together backstage. John Cena's talking backstage with people, shaking CM Punk's hands at like a month or 2 before they feuded. It's like, what? Even CM Punk and Seth Rollins. CM Punk came up with the idea for the Elimination Chamber actual match when he would roll out of the STF and then Rollins curb stomped him and then Cena pulled him back and STF'd him. That was the situation. Like, you get highlighted for you in this show that some of the creativity and a lot of the, some of the good matches, good moments, inside of the matches and segments are come up with by the wrestlers. So Triple H's creativity in the writing room aren't really doing anything spectacular if the wrestlers are coming up with some of the best parts of the show themselves. So I thought that absolutely exposed the booking and the writing for not being as creative. It's the stars who are actually making these things watchable sometimes. You know what I'm saying? It's very rarely the booking's actual job to make these things feel epic in certain situations, okay? And another thing we have to talk about from this, from this show to take away, because this video is really just going to be talking about, breaking down this show, because it's all just covering from Royal Rumble, the Raw Netflix, to WrestleMania. That's what this show covers, so I'm just going to go through all the main things. And the number one thing, obviously, we have to start off talking about, we need to stop blaming TKO, and by we, not me, because I've been saying this is not TKO's fault. I mean, some of the ads and, the ring placement and the forcing of, what's called commercials and sponsorships, yeah, I get that, but the actual show quality and it being booked week to week is on the writers and on Triple H. You see it in the show. The Rock is barely utilized or mentioned inside of the show. They have to use stock footage from the WrestleMania 40 documentary to talk about this guy. And this all dates back to what people have been saying about Triple H for years, but especially recently this year. Triple H is an egomaniac. The one thing you notice inside of this entire show is that every single situation, when you go back to Gorilla, when you go back to backstage, when you go into the writer's room, when you're out there while he's calling the matches, what I'm saying, when wrestlers are entrancing and they're having their matches or segments themselves, Triple H and everyone back there are all complimenting each other on how great everything is. Everyone is a yes man backstage. They speak in corporate terms and corporate dialogue. They're bots and shills for what Triple H is doing. Every single decision that's made, Triple H is like, I'm going to put the rocket on you, Jay. I'm going to do this for you. I think Cena should turn heel. I think Cody should do this. I'm going to have Cody do this. I. But you see Triple H is working with other bad writers to come up with some of these ideas. So it's just like, none of this stuff makes any sense. The reason why some of this booking booking is really garbage this year, or a lot of it is garbage this year, pretty much nearly all of it at this point, is because everyone backstage is telling Triple H how great he is. Like, they show you in the documentary, they finished the Rumble where Jey Uso wins the Royal Rumble, by the way. CM Punk was originally going to be the Royal Rumble winner. They show it in the documentary, okay? Some dude with the last name Hayes, I forget if it was Brendan Hayes or someone like that, Michael Hayes maybe, I don't remember, but him and Triple H chose to put the rocket on Jey Uso and have him win over Punk and Cena, who were the favorites backstage and from creative to win the Royal Rumble. And you mean to tell me that after Jey Uso wins the Royal Rumble, a former tag team guy, you think he's going to carry the World Heavyweight title to prominence and be the second biggest champion in the company? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, these are not intelligent decisions. But when this happens, everyone backstage is shaking hands, they're popping champagne, they're hugging each other, kissing on each other's heads. This is awesome, guys. This is awesome. Like, no, it's not. Stop! And this was one of the funniest things I saw inside of this documentary. Triple H, because like I said so far, he's an egomaniac. He acts like everything he's doing is right, and everyone keeps telling him how great everything is, and no one's actually questioning anything, okay? He even says he had a call with John Cena discussing the heel turn, and John Cena just automatically says, you know what, no matter what you do, Hunter, I'm good with it. Cena's not even going to fight back. He's just going to take it and just deal with it, and then have a bad heel run that's booked by triple fraud. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is just so stupid to me, bro. On top of that, okay, this is one of the funniest things I've seen in the entire documentary. Triple H literally, is talking about how he literally plans WWE years out in seasons. So he has specific seasons where he's booking long-term storylines and long-term matches and long-term feuds. But then you actually think about it for a second. Rhea Ripley in the documentary calls her feud with Liv Morgan Groundhog Day. Seth Rollins and CM Punk, yes, CM Punk got injured, but the match, in order for the first match of them to happen, came like 15 months after CM Punk arrived in WWE. You have other situations, for example, where Roman Reigns goes from feuding with Solo Sikoa to having a forced convoluted triple threat that made no sense and wasn't even the original plan a month before it was put into place. You see what I'm saying? So Triple H is lying. He's not a long-term booker. None of this stuff is thought out well in advance. The John Cena heel turn was thought of like very soon before Elimination Chamber. The Rock showing up was thought of soon before Elimination Chamber because they needed a spark, they needed a jolt heading into Chamber and heading into later in Mania season. Nick Khan said it himself in the documentary. So that's why The Rock showed up. You get what I'm saying? None of this stuff is actually planned out and thought of in advance, and that is exactly why there is no real effort or creativity put into this. You watch the Raws and SmackDowns every week. I said this a billion times. If you only watch the PLEs and never watch Raw or SmackDown this year and only watch like the Punk or Cena or Roman segments on YouTube, what will you have missed this year? Nothing. Raw and SmackDown have given you nothing. There's no long-term story. It's all convoluted, bad booking. There's been no great storylines this year. If there is, there's maybe been a couple, if that. We're 8 months in, dang near at this point. We should have more than that. And the Raws and SmackDowns are skippable, and the PLEs suck. The PLEs are filled with Raw and SmackDown level matches, and that's a fact. And before we get into the WrestleMania 41 and stuff itself, because that's what I really want to talk about, but before we get into that, one of the things that happened at the Royal Rumble, or after it, leading in the Chamber, is The Rock wanted to have Cody Rhodes be the one to turn down his offer, okay? And after that, he was going to act out of, because he's the boss in storyline and out of storyline, so he was going to say he's just going to force a title match with Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens was going to go ahead and beat, what's his name? Kevin Owens was going to go ahead and beat, Cody Rhodes on the spot for the WWE Championship at Elimination Chamber and take it from him, okay? And that would have led into a bigger story, because they wanted something seismic and big to happen at Elimination Chamber with The Rock being there. And after that happened, I guess Cena would have gone versus KO for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. The Rock would have obviously continued his heel run or whatever would have came from it. They obviously canceled the plan early on, so obviously it didn't matter what happened after that. They didn't really think it through all the way because they couldn't. It got canceled. But still, that's just how the situation was, which I think that would have been interesting because, quite frankly, I was saying this during the feud, KO was doing significantly better work in that entire, 5 to 4 month feud that he had with Kevin Owens. You know what I'm saying? Like Kevin Owens and Cody, between those two, KO was doing a lot of the good heavy lifting. Cody had 1 or 2 good promos the whole run, but KO was doing creative work. He was entertaining. He was funny sometimes, and he played a really good, off the edge heel. And I thought that was really cool. And so The Rock probably saw that and wanted to do that instead. And maybe Cody would have fought The Rock at Mania or fought something else, because The Rock would have had to be there for the storyline if that was the case. So who knows what would have happened with that. And we also have to discuss the fact that The Rock did get established officially. We already knew this obviously, but it was confirmed. The Rock did want Cody to be the one to turn heel eventually and have Cena as a babyface versus Cody as a heel. Because even if you turn Cody Rhodes face, or heel, even though he's your top babyface, he's still going to be able to sell merch. He's still going to be a big deal because he'll be, one of the top people in the entire industry, in the entire company. You get what I'm saying? So it is what it is. And with Cena being back and he actually being a babyface, you get what I'm saying? You'd still be selling a ton of merch regardless. Roman's a face. Jey Uso was yeeting a lot and selling merch. LA Knight obviously is another guy you could have had. So merch sales and having multiple good guys is not the problem. That's why I do believe that Cody should have been the one to turn heel leading into Mania, and Cena probably should have stayed face. That's just my thinking, though. And another thing as well, one more big thing is that Triple H is literally quoted word for word by saying in this show that the Performance Center and the men on NXT on average are garbage. He literally said that there's at least, for every one good talent there is in the men's division on NXT at the Performance Center, there's 5 great women's wrestlers. And that just goes to show you how slow that men wrestlers are picking it up in the Performance Center and in NXT. They're just simply not as good as the woman. Those are Triple H's words, not mine, even though I agree with him, obviously, because NXT's men's roster is garbage. Outside of Trick Williams and, Oba Femi, that's basically all they have. And even then, those two aren't really main event level superstar talents, at least yet, in my opinion. So that, there's multiple women that can come up immediately and be mid-card stars or be main eventers. You know what I'm saying? Just a proxy of how good they are. So it's like Triple H exposing that and being honest about how bad the future crop of talent is for the men's division was great to see, because now it shows you guys that what I'm saying is the realities. You're seeing, people are saying it behind the scenes. This is just the facts. The young men's stars, including Braun Breaker, guys like that who came up in the NXT Performance Center system, are not good enough to be main event level stars. The next generation superstars, like your next Cena or your next Roman Reigns, that ain't happening with these people, bro. You see it. Maybe one of them, I think Trick Williams has some superstar level talent there, but again, guys like Braun Breaker who are over pushed, Oba Femi who's over pushed in NXT, people like that, these people coming up in the PC, the Performance Center, they're not gonna end up being major superstars most likely. They're not being taught the real intricacies. They're not doing a lot of live events. They're not learning their craft and executing their craft to the extent that other greats did as they were coming up in the ranks of the industry. And it's just a fact. But now let's talk about WrestleMania. This is the original card for WrestleMania. Okay, I'm going to read this. All right, this is I have this pulled up here. They say this in the documentary. All right, so this is the exact card for WrestleMania 41 about 2 months in advance. Okay, so here it is. Cody Rhodes was going to fight John Cena for the WWE Championship, so that was the plan. Seth Rollins was going to fight Roman Reigns. Gunther was going to fight CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship, which is now happening at SummerSlam, obviously. Rhea Ripley was going to fight Bianca in a one-on-one for the Women's World Championship. Nia Jax was going to fight Jade Cargill for the WWE Women's Championship, okay? Randy Orton was going to fight KO. The Judgment Day was going to fight the Wyatt Six. Becky Lynch and Charlotte were going to team up to fight Asuka and Io Sky. AJ Styles was going to fight Logan Paul. Bad Bunny was going to fight Dom Mysterio. Braun Breaker was going to fight Drew McIntyre with Stone Cold Steve Austin as the referee in Vegas at Mania. Rey Mysterio with Travis Scott was going to fight Chad Gable. Travis Scott at ringside, obviously. And then it was going to be Jey Uso versus Damian Priest versus Sami Zayn versus Sheamus versus Ludwig versus Brunson Reed in the Intercontinental Championship title ladder match. So I guess that means that Sami Zayn or Sheamus was going to be the Intercontinental Championship leading into Mania at some point in the planning process. And the last match on the card was going to be Nakamura versus LA Knight, and versus Santos Escobar versus Jimmy Uso versus Andrade versus Solo Sikoa versus Carmelo Hayes in a United States Championship title match, obviously in a ladder match, okay? That was the original card and the original plan for, for WrestleMania this year. But obviously, things did not go that way. I'm pretty sure in the show, they say that this is like the plan 2 months in advance of Mania 41, or maybe 3 months in advance, and this is what they were going to do. But things went absolutely awry. Half of the match, nearly 70 to 80% of the matches I just listed did not happen at WrestleMania 41, which just goes to show you the creative disarray that Triple H and the writers' room were in leading up to this PLE. We didn't get Seth versus Roman in a one-on-one because we ended up getting a triple threat with Rollins, Punk, and Roman that made absolutely zero sense. And now Rollins is hurt, and now we're just floating around here doing a bunch of nonsense. The Paul Heyman, Rollins, and Braun Breaker and Brunson Reed faction has failed. No one cares about it. It's not interesting. Braun Breaker doesn't have it. Okay, he just doesn't. Gunther ended up fighting Jey Uso for the world title instead of CM Punk, and he got beat. Okay, Rhea Ripley did not have a one-on-one versus Bianca Belair. Instead, they had Io win it after Elimination Chamber on a Raw episode, then rematch on another Raw episode, and then Rhea Ripley proceeded to have a triple threat by just crying her way into the triple threat match at Mania. It makes no sense. Nia Jax did not fight Jade Cargill, which that match would have been good because they had a couple one-on-ones on SmackDown over the last year, and they've all been pretty solid. I remember pretty much most of them, at least. They're pretty good, okay? But even though it's, we've already seen it on SmackDown, I wouldn't love that at a Mania, but maybe you add a stipulation, make it a last woman standing, it would have been good, maybe. Who knows? Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens, okay, that was planned, but KO's injury got in the way, so that's that. The Judgment Day versus the Wyatt Six didn't happen at all. I don't even think either team even got on the card. Dominic Mysterio Mysterio and Liv Morgan and Raquel, yeah, they were there, but, I think, Finn Balor was there too. He was in the match, the IC Fatal 4-Way, so that's that. The Wyatt Six weren't even featured. Becky Lynch and Charlotte didn't even team up, to fight Asuka or Io. And then AJ Styles fought Logan Paul. Bad Bunny didn't fight Dominic Mysterio. Braun Breaker never fought Drew McIntyre. Rey Mysterio was gonna fight Chad Gable, but it didn't happen. Jey Uso in the whole IC title ladder match with Sheamus, Priest, Ludwig, Brunson, and Sami Zayn, that didn't happen. Nakamura, Knight, Santos, Jimmy Uso, Andrade, Sol Sikoa, and Carmelo Hayes did not happen for the U.S. title in the ladder match. So all of these plans were shuffled around, messed up, convoluted, poorly booked, and did not get executed. This card on paper seems slightly better. Actually, it seems much better than what we actually had on paper for WrestleMania 41, because what we actually got was garbage. So I don't know, like you're telling me that this card would have been worse? It just doesn't make any sense. Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns is a night 1 main event, and then Cody versus Cena as a night 2 main event, and then Gunther and CM Punk as a show opener or something like that, or Rhea versus Bianca as a 1-on-1 for the world title. That could have been a woman's last woman standing match. That would have been much better alone than what we got. But we got a bunch of nonsense that nobody cares about. Just imagine the U.S. title ladder match and the IC title ladder match. Just imagine those would have tore the house down at WrestleMania, bro. Have one on each night, respectively, and it would have been entertaining. That's just how ladder matches are. Those would have been sick, bro. People like Damian Priest in those matches, Sami Zayn, Sheamus, Ludwig, Brunson redoing a tsunami off a ladder, most likely. Nakamura versus LA Knight versus Santos versus Jimmy Uso versus Andrade, Solo, Carmelo Hayes. That match would have been a banger. And you could have replaced Santos in that match with Jacob Fatu or something like that if you really wanted to. So it's very evident for you guys to see how messy and how bad the booking is. And this is not the fault of TKO or anybody else, except for the writers who are in the room with Triple H and Triple H himself. They're co-signing on this. They're messing these storylines up. Yes, there are some injuries here and there that affected things, like KO getting hurt. I get that, okay? You had other people, for example, what's it called? What was the situation there? I think there's someone else who got hurt there in the whole process. Is that it, actually? KO got hurt, and then who else got hurt? That was it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was it. He was the only person who got hurt in the build to this Mania. So I don't know how Rey Mysterio got hurt the week before, too. So that's that. But the point is, the booking being shallow and messy and not executed well shows you that if Triple H was really long-term planning, all this stuff would have been built to and set in stone in advance. But because ideas were constantly changing on the fly, there's constant yes men telling him everything he's good, but he knows deep down it's not great, so he's constantly changing things here and there. You get messiness, you get convoluted booking, you get bad shows, and you get a lot of meaningless content because a lot of the storylines don't even carry into the following week because they're just forgotten about after a couple weeks, if not 1 week. So everything is contributing to show you how bad and how poorly WWE has done this year, and just the simple fact that they pull back the curtain this much to show you every little detail dang near with cameras all up in people's faces. I thought that was really stupid and very odd to see as a wrestling fan, in my personal opinion. But if you've seen WWE Unreal, let me know what you think about it. I still gotta finish probably like an episode and a half worth of content still, but so far I'd say the show is mid. I don't like what it stands for in terms of the general ideology of how pro wrestling works and just the business in general. I don't like what Triple H is doing behind the scenes. I don't like the yes men constantly everywhere. I think it's pretty stupid. But at the end of the day, this is just the direction of the business. They're showing you how the food is made, you know what I'm saying? And that's just really what it is. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think about WWE Unreal in the comment section below, and we will be breaking this down further definitely this week, some of the elements of it, because this was just the beginning of a long-term story from your boy, you know what I'm saying, to break down the garbage that WWE is doing today. There's a reason why the viewership is declining, the quality is declining, the merch sales are declining, the ticket sales are declining, you know what I'm saying, the actual the sponsorships are going up to help them get out of the billions of dollars of debt with TKO, and also help them sell more tickets and get more money. So it's an absolute joke. Thank you guys for watching. Have a phenomenal day. Peace out and one love.